wonderful Nigerians and fans of Living Television. I am glad you are there in today's program of Issues of the Moment. We're really very sorry that we couldn't get across to you with our program Nigeria Today, Wednesday, due to a little technical hitch. We are on ground today, as usual. In today's Issues of the Moment, as usual, I have a wonderful analyst in the house. And in today's Issues of the Moment, we'll be looking at Supreme Court upholds Tinubu's election victory. Norge kicks against alleged imposition of Governor Otis Stooges as Union ESCO in Abia. The Nigerian Labour Congress gives Governor Alex Otti a 14-day ultimatum. A 14-day ultimatum of the officials of the imposed to leave the office of the Norge. These and many more will be coming your way with the details of what you've heard. With me today in the studio is your friend and brother, our analyst, Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi. Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi is a historian, a political affairs analyst, and also a public affairs analyst. Comrade, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, John. It's an honor to be here. Good day, viewers.
The Supreme Court has affirmed the election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the President of Nigeria. Justice Iyan Okoro delivered the lead judgment of the Supreme Court on Thursday. The Supreme Court, in the lead judgment delivered by Justice Okoro, dismissed the appeal filed by Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party. Comrade, let me start this way. What does this mean for Nigerians?
Okay, what it simply means for Nigerians is that the president has been set. Going forward, we now know that if there are elections and there are certain outcomes, like the ones that followed the aftermath of the 2023 election, presidential election, 25th of February precisely, that should a candidate fail to secure 25% of the votes cast in FCT, having done same in at least two-thirds majority of the states in the federation, they are now winner. So, and that is why the Supreme Court is a court of policy. It has become a policy. You understand? It's no longer to be contested any longer. It has been settled. And then, one thing we have to know about the judgment was that the Supreme Court delivered the judgment that was handed down yesterday, following technicalities. Yes, not about sympathy or emotion or any feeling, but it was just about technicalities. Because when we say technicalities, we simply mean the rules, the norms that guide the Supreme Court in its functions as the apex court, that which was created or established on the 1st of October 1963, the day Nigeria became a republic, to say matters about our justice system. We no longer have its court of final jurisdiction outside the shores of this country. Before now, it used to be the Privy Council in Britain, but upon attainment of the Republican status in 1963, the Supreme Court was established. This is the 60th year or 60th anniversary of that very court, the apex court. The court relied on technicalities, because if you look at the judgment, there were 7 issues for which Atiku filed 35 ground protests. Then Peter Obi filed 51 ground protests, saying that the judgment from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal or the Presidential Election Petition Court erred in delivering justice and cannot stand. So they challenged as is allowed in our laws at the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court decided yesterday, after about 7 months battle concerning the presidency. Now, the fact that the court decided that yesterday simply means that a policy has been attained, that there is a policy now in Nigeria. So there are many areas, but I want to look at few areas. In fact, there were 7 issues at contest, but I want to look at a few. What is the Supreme Court stated that the failure of the commission to transmit election electronically may widen apathy. It agreed that failure widened apathy, but that it could not affect the outcome of the election because collation, even up until the period of the last election, were done physically. So if the commission failed to upload the result to each portal, that the commission, that such development could not mar the outcome of election. And that's where I have yes, I have a concern with that very judgment. Though is a final judgment, none else subsists, or there is none else above it now. The matter has been settled. But then it reminds me the saying by Justice Chukwudifo Oputa of the Blessed Memory, known as the Socrates of the Supreme Court. He said, "We are final, not because we are supreme. We are supreme because we are final. We are final, not because we are supreme or that we are infallible. You understand? But we are supreme. We are Supreme Court. We are to be supreme because we are final in terms of hierarchy. We are the last court above which none else exists." And then again, the Supreme Court also ruled that if a candidate aspiring to the post of the president fails to secure 25% of the votes cast in FCT, provided the candidates had actually met the constitutional requirements in terms of securing 2/3 of the votes cast in securing the 25% of the votes cast in 2/3 of the states, that such a candidate had actually qualified to be the president and should so be declared. Mind you, these are 2 areas we've not had such issues before. So now they have set the precedent, and going forward, it has become part of our electoral systems, and then electoral guidelines or even principles. And then again, coming to the issue of forgery, they said that the PDP candidates had about 180 days to file appeal, but he did not use that window. He now brought a fresh matter before the Supreme Court, which is not always the court of first instance, and which does not treat fresh matter. You understand that the Supreme Court, by this meaning, by this very ruling, simply told us that it is only a corrective court. You understand? You don't bring a fresh matter to it. But I think in the rules and the guidelines of the court, there are circumstances that may require admitting fresh evidence. But it's only the court that can tell us such circumstance, and it's only the court that can tell us whether such a circumstance arose. You understand? As at that yesterday. But then what actually I have to say that the judgment for me left, unlike before now, it showed you the lack of faith in the judiciary that now is becoming culture. Before now, after the Supreme Court might have ruled, candidates will accept and say, in the interest of democracy, they have accepted. Now, the 2 candidates, the arch-rivals of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they all say they don't agree with the Supreme Court, though they are not going to appeal. For tomorrow, like Peter Obi, he said the executive, out of this rascally tendencies, this recklessness, had usurped the function of the judiciary and the legislature. That was his statement following that very day. In fact, he even said that a danger looms because tyranny will emerge. Then Atiku Abubakar said the Supreme Court disappointed Nigerians by that judgment it handed yesterday. So it tells you the lack of faith in the institution of our courts and then our judiciary. But going forward, the meaning now is that should we, if we have election now and INEC decides not to transmit electronically after spending over 100 billion naira just for technology alone, that INEC is in order. And the meaning also is that if a candidate unknown to his challengers had something hidden And at the time of the appeal, you understand, such a thing was not mentioned, and the window closes. It simply means that we can no longer bring such things, no, even if it could be against the, perhaps even if it is something that could be against the interest of the nation. You understand? So they have set the precedent, and now going forward, it's become law, and it will be cited in our legal system. And if you look at, you see that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu welcomed the judgment. He said he welcomed the judgment, that it has actually consolidated the democratic base and the institutions of the Nigerian state, and then that he has never doubted the judiciary for once, and he has never been shaken in his belief that they can deliver justice to every Nigerian. But the question we should be asking is, why? And this is my own personal question. During the presidential election petition tribunal, you understand, the court of first instance at the appeal court, then the 5 judges, or sorry, the 5 justices, 5-man panel, the justices had a unanimous decision that Tinubu, that the Tinubu's victory was constitutional and should be upheld. 5 of them. Then back to this one again. 7 of them gave unanimous judgments. So it means that their lordships and the justices all are on the same page. They agreed. You understand? But if you take it back to when Buhari was there in 2007, there was Justice Nsofo who gave a dissenting vote. And I think, I am not trying to preempt or trying to say that they should have delivered their judgment this way or that way. But mind you that each of these justices will deliver a judgment. You understand? Which will now be consolidated and then a ruling pronounced. Now, the reason why we have odd numbers, or why we we usually go for odd number in constituting this panel, is to make sure that the judgments do not tie. You understand?
Yes.
Because they are expected to judge for or against, not to be neutral. You understand? So if we have 8-man panel, and 4 said they are okay with the judgment, and 4 said no, we are dissenting, it simply means we are not having a constitutional law jam. So to save us from that place, it became imperative that we have 7-man panel, 5-man panel. But the question I want to ask is, why will all these justices agree on the same thing? It's because I think then again, I think the Supreme Court even cited section 185 subsection 1 of the Evidence Act, understand, saying that whenever a party to an election is alleging violation, and then the evidence is then that it's not enough to prove the violation, that it does not affect the outcome of the election, fine. But the thing we all should be actually looking at is going forward. You understand how we may begin to operate the system that accommodates all this, because this has already become a case. Even the issue of double candidature, the Supreme Court said they had ruled on that, I think on the 26th day of May, and then Peter Obi's case was baseless. And then again, they also say that in the case of Chicago State University, if you had listened to the hearing of that case, you would have known where that judgment was actually going. Yes, I made that conclusion. I told people that the judgment may go based on technicalities, because the questions that were asked, Articles 2, were 1. Why was the deposition done in the chambers of your counsel and not in a law court? Meaning that the evidence you are bringing cannot be termed a product of the courts. That's what the Supreme Court said. That was the question they asked. They now asked, why is it that you did not instigate this process through a court in Nigeria? You understand? Or that you went directly abroad, you understand, to instigate the process. You know, then they made it clear that the Supreme Court is not a court that accepts fresh evidence when matters had been dealt with, and then hearings, and then the Supreme Court is not the court of first instance unless you want to take us back again. And that's why in most cases you don't see it with a witness boss and all the rest of that. But I think this has actually inserted question mark into section 64 of the Electoral Act, which says that the commission may transmit electronically or manually. But from my little understanding, what the Supreme Court has actually held and upheld, which people may not know, is that manual transmission now supersede perhaps electronic transmission. Who knows?
Okay. Looking at this, compare this with what happened during Buhari's time too, at the court, the same court, and then at the point they were talking about Buhari having no certificate and affidavit was now accepted. What do you think is the position of the academic system in this country?
Yes, the position of the academic system, or let me say academic qualification, as may have to do with candidates. The bar has been far lowered, and I want to remind you something. During the last ministerial screening, when President Bola Tinubu nominated his ministerial appointees, they were to appear before the National Assembly, that's the Senate precisely, for screening. One of the candidates flunked all his papers. He had about 7 Fs, and I think 1 pass.
1 pass.
Yes, one of the ministers to be. And when he was asked the question, why did you present this when you failed? Do you know what he said? He said there was no law requiring him to clear the papers because such ruling was established by the court of the land during the Buhari issue. So we lowered the bar. Now listen, this person is going to be a minister in a ministry that has people that has PhDs, people with MSc, people with their first degree, and then to be admitted or to be employed as a clerk. That's level 04, salary grade level 04, salary grade level 04. You are expected to pass English language. You are expected to also pass, to have at least 5 credits.
Yes.
You understand? But a minister going to superintend or to supervise such ministries, we flunk all the papers. So it simply means we have so far lowered the bar. Now see, the president, remember, was saying, do not give Atiku my academic records. It may harm my privacy. It may harm me. You begin to ask a question. Academic records are they supposed to be private things? For example, people are known because, okay, if someone is a professor, it means they've gone far in the intellectual struggle or in their academic progression to solve human problems. Now, I have earned a degree from my university, and you want to vet the degree. Should it be in my interest to tell my university not to avail you those records?
No.
So these are the things we are actually looking at now. You see, so the decision by the Supreme Court, many Nigerians we are actually, in fact, we are not even optimistic. They said, the matter has been decided already, so there was no need go taking the trouble to listen or to watch or to follow. So and then when the judgment was actually delivered, they said they expected it. Many Nigerians, you understand. But the truth is this. The Supreme Court may rule something, INEC may actually make some mistakes. Because INEC told us that they will be transmitting these results electronically and say they will be following their election guideline. But unfortunately, the same INEC went to break Section 64 of the Electoral Act, which did not expressly say it must be electronically done. It gives a clause. You understand? It gave a clause. So INEC was not trying to contradict itself. So to me, going forward, we may be witnessing political elections where the turnout may be low. Mind you, we are talking about election. People felt this presidential election was hotly contested, but then only 27% of the registered voters participated. Going forward, what will that mean for us if this is not taken care of?
Okay, the Supreme Court said the failure by the Independent National Electoral Commission to transmit election results electronically did not affect the outcome of the election and could not warrant the nullification of the result of the presidential election. Just like you pointed out, here. And then going forward, the Supreme Court also mentioned it, and we're very verbal about it.
Yes.
You know, that whether transmitted electronically or not cannot affect the outcome of this election. And now, almost half of Nigerians lamented bitterly about the outcome of this presidential election 25th February. And now that same man is also conducting the 3 states election, Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa.
Yes.
And then, what do we expect?
We see, he said people were even telling the INEC chairman that he should correct the mistakes of 2023. Yeah. You are using Imo, Kogi, and but then to me, I have this to say. I do not know why Bola Ahmed Tinubu left that man to be there. In fact, I think he is the first person to be given reappointment by President Muhammadu Buhari, and his office will expire by 2025, November 2025. He is going to be there until the political build-up, or until the build-ups for 2027 election starts becoming thick. He will still be there for a reasonable length of time. And this is a man, let me also shock you now, against whom there are petitions, litany of complaints from the commission staff who unanimously wrote and then anonymously an open letter to the president accusing the INEC chair of high-handedness, insensitive to their plight, focusing mostly on contracts. You understand? Trying to divert contracts. Then the letter which I read, they alleged that the INEC chairman, after President Muhammadu Buhari instructed that 40% increment be awarded to them in terms of their salary, has not implemented that. Then this election, no INEC staff received election hazard allowance, but these are people who are going to the field. It's just much like a battle, because in Nigeria elections are similar to battle, and that's why you see deployment of the soldiers, the police, the civil defense, all compartments of our security agencies. So they were saying that they have not been paid that amount, and they said that they didn't also receive their duty tour allowance, meaning that the man has a question to answer. You understand? But then the president, the last conversation the National Assembly had during their summit at Akwa Ibom, something was established at Ekotebene. Professor Atahiru Jega, who conducted the election that saw to the emergence of President Muhammad Buhari, and who rejected reappointment. You understand? He said something. He said that the president going forward should not be the one to appoint INEC chairman. Yeah. You understand? And then the commissioners of the commission, because all these commissioners, even the one in our state, resident electoral commissioners, they are appointed by the president. Other commissioners who perform certain special tasks, maybe commissioner for education and enlightenment or whatever, they are also appointees of the president. In the same election where the president he is also the commander-in-chief, and the person who had appointed the IG of police, the service chiefs, who are stakeholders in the election. So how possible is it? And then the same president had also appointed the chief justice of the federation. So you see that was why the Nigerian public or populace believes that as far as this judgment was concerned, it was already decided, and many Nigerians, I can tell you, preempted the judgment.
Okay, now for looking at Nigeria this morning, I think the dollar is about 1,000, almost 300.
1,300 plus, yes.
Plus, as we speak.
Yes.
And now that I think that is because of the level of hardship, the degree of hardship experienced by Nigerians since the inception of this government. Wonderful viewers, we're really very sorry for that little break in transmission. Yeah, moving forward, remember, it's still your favorite program, Issues of the Moment. Yes, comrade, moving forward, you know, a lot of Nigerians had cried bitterly and wanted a change of government because of since the inception of this government, it has been hardship and so on, the rising of dollars and so on, as a result of the fuel subsidy removal. And then you also remember that today, as we speak, fuel is about 660 naira as at yesterday,
yes,
in Aba here. And then dollar is about 1,300 and something. Yes. And that is why every other person had cried for a change of government, and maybe. And then, as we speak, the Supreme Court has affirmed and upheld the Tinubu's election victory. And then, what do you think this will bring to Nigerians? And how are the people faring? Since yesterday, it looked as if a lot of people in some quarters are mourning.
Yes, I think in most cases, there are trends we don't normally follow. If a particular president is elected, it affects the stock exchange, now known as Nigerian Exchange. You know, before it used to be NSE, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Now it is now Nigerian Exchange. If you look at the exchange yesterday, to an extent, you will notice, you will observe some slight changes. And then the dollar you are talking about, the pressure on the dollar is not letting up. Sorry, the pressure on the naira is not letting up, and it keeps falling. Why the dollar keeps appreciating? Then the fuel subsidy is that we actually exhausted that oftentimes. But I want to say this: you see, the Supreme Court is not even interested, because this is not the matter, or these are not the matters presented before it. The Supreme Court is not. The question you asked to me was even emotional, because the Supreme Court is not looking at the numbers, whether inflation, whether unemployment, whether food price inflation, whether cost inflation, anything we're talking about. They are not interested. They are not even interested in all those economic realities or dynamics. They are interested in the matter and the fact of the law as they read. And I want to say this: you see, they rested the judgment on technicalities. And what do I mean by technicalities? The rules, the procedure, the convention, the guidelines, you understand, that decide how the Supreme Court functions and how the Supreme Court works. Those are the things they rested their judgment on, not on what may actually be fact, but not directed or not presented before the court following those procedures. You may be having the fact to nail Bola Tinubu. Maybe your fact of forgery or your fact of anything, you understand, or even background or dual citizenship or double non-nomination or whatever. But how you present your matter is very important. And I think going forward, this should also be a lesson to future litigants, because I'm aware that litigation will not end as far as our electioneering is. Yes. So if you are convinced that somebody is projecting or is banned or is presenting a ticket that they have not earned, you are required to do the background information and make sure you include same in your first, you understand, in your first appeal or in your first motion you are filing. And I think to an extent I also gave it to the Supreme Court, because Atiku had many days to actually amend his appeal, so to even amend the suit he has filed, and he didn't do this until the matter was decided on. You understand? No matter there are also areas I have some concerns, you understand, then you are now bringing a fresh matter before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has judged based on technicality, saying you didn't follow the procedure, so we are not going to entertain this. It lacks merit. But the question is, why will the justices, all the justices, agree on something? And I think it is left for them to answer. But then I think the aftermath of that very judgment witnessed a lot of reactions. That, like I did say, Peter Obi did not accept that. In fact, if you had listened to his various interventions on Twitter, or if you had read his interventions on Twitter, where a Nigerian was actually where a Nigerian won a seat in Manitoba in Canada, you understand? In Manitoba in Canada, where he was congratulating the person. He now said it was a system that was built on transparency and the rule of law, where the judiciary knows its duty, that would allow this to happen. Then subsequently he even said something. So he told you that to an extent perhaps there was that premonition, in as much as Edun the spokesperson of the Labour Party has actually said there was hope before the judgment. Then, if you had listened to the questions, you understand, asked the Atiku Abubakar team when they approached the Supreme Court seeking to file fresh evidence, you understand, the questions asked to them would have told you where this judgment may likely go. But I said again, I think the reaction I saw yesterday, I was laughing at was the one from two persons. One, I never knew that up until now that Shehu Garba is still in former President Buhari's employ. He released a speech to congratulate Tinubu, saying we have come to the final bus stop. Then the next one came from the APC chairman Ganduje. In his statement, Ganduje said Peter Obi and Atiku should wait till 2031 to exercise their right to rule Nigeria. But I have this to say, that statement was actually similar to what Olaf was saying, that PDP could rule Nigeria till when. But unfortunately, he was saying it on the ground, and that prophecy never came to fruition. Do you know what? Because the ticket never went beyond the joint ticket of Omar Musa Yar'Adua and Goodluck Jonathan. So politicians have to be careful. We've seen reactions, those who are calling for government and national unity. Even Tinubu is calling his challengers to join him to develop the nation. But we must also understand that a president had been said, and then that going forward, we may be having such interpretations even in lower courts. And then the fact of the FCT not being the same thing with the state or being the same thing with the state was actually, in fact, to me, that's the point. I was asking the question, I said, both the FCT and the states are creations of the constitution. But when you talk about equality of states, or when you talk about states or states as we have to do in Nigeria, states were created by one section. The constitution was clear that Nigeria shall be a federation of 36 states. That was the creation of the state in the constitution. You understand? That Nigeria shall be a federation of 36 states. And in the shadow, it mentioned these states alphabetically. It didn't mention the FCT. Then in a subsequent section, the same constitution said there shall be a federal capital territory. It simply means to me, to my own knowledge, I am not trying to preempt the Supreme Court, that the states and the FCT do not have the same status. But what the Supreme Court was actually saying was that giving FCT a separate status may actually mean discrimination against the states. That's the judgment. But we all have to know that the president has been said.
All right. Shortly before this government were sworn in, a lot of people talked about closing down on governance.
Yes.
And recently, Nigerians' mouths are wagging here and there concerning the SUV approved to the National Assembly,
yes,
to the tune of 160 million naira,
yes,
per person. And
yes,
then the National Assembly also came up yesterday to say that they cannot afford to give WAEC free or register WAEC free for individuals. And then talking about governance and amelioration of suffering of the masses.
Yes.
And when an individual is just a vehicle, we are not talking about other incentives that are agreeable to the members of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And then what is this telling Nigerians?
Well, you see, that many people believe that was, although that has been their convention before now, heretofore. It has been the Hitherto convention. It has been the Hitherto practice. Many people believe it's one of the ways that Tinubu was trying to win over the National Assembly members or the legislature. And if you look at Peter Obi's release, he said the National Assembly and the executive had been hijacked by the National Assembly, the legislature and the judiciary had been hijacked by the executive. Now, that issue of vehicle, you know, one thing that worried me so much was not even at the issue of vehicle. It was the statement, Senator, what's that his name again? Senator Sunday, Senator from Kogi State, who actually moved that motion for, yes, he moved the motion for inquiry into the 11.35 trillion naira spent on turnaround maintenance. Then he talked about that vehicle. Do you know what he said? He said people were attacking the National Assembly members because they had only one. Because they have only one. That what about the ministers that have them? You see the kind of people we elect. Understand? And this is my personal opinion. I'm the one who owns this opinion. That statement lacks empathy. You understand? Given the times we are in now, that we are talking about, that multi-dimensional poverty, 133 million, and that number would have by far increased, given the following the cashless policy. Then you talk about inflation. People are not seeing food to eat. Farmers have been displaced. Insecurity is not letting on. You also talk about the fact that within the same time, we've also had unemployment rise to over 40%. Yet, an elected official will sit somewhere and say that a vehicle procured at the rate of 160 billion. Now, I did say that we were even talking. We hear this news only when it has to do. When they were talking about it at the lower chamber, and I did say, what about the ones judges, justices, ministers will have the same kind of vehicle? You see, this is how. So, if anybody is talking about cost of governance being cut, it's not in the agenda of this government. If it were in their agenda, they wouldn't have 48 ministers. Who does that? The constitution even allows you to appoint, to have ministers, and then say every state must be presented in appointment, which means it should not exceed 36. You understand? It should not exceed 36. But unfortunately, for whatever reasons best known to himself, the president appointed 48 ministers. And each of these ministers will have head, will have cost of running his or her office, will also have similar vehicles, not one, not two. You understand? Then you also pay them per diem. Each time they are leaving the shores of this country, there is a money you pay them in dollar. Each time they are leaving Abuja, there is also a money you pay them in a sum you pay them in naira. So this is the kind of the bloated structure we have in government and governance, and it reflected the 2024 fiscal strategy paper. And the medium-term expenditure framework said Nigeria was looking to spend 26 trillion naira in the 2024 budget. Out of that amount, 8.25 trillion naira will go to debt servicing. 7.778 trillion naira will go into personnel costs, and then pension costs. Then nearly 400 billion naira will go to wage bill. 1.3 trillion naira statutory transfer. What is left to do Kawa project? And these are the senators. Now listen, when the president will present this budget, you will see the enthusiasm the lawmakers are going to exist. They will even add figures. They have been doing it over the years, and they call it padding now. They will add figures so that it will do what it will be bigger. Now the various committees will be much interested in what the ministries are coming to defend, because the ministries will come to defend their budget at the committee level. They will come there, they will be asked questions. Now they will pass the budget into law. It becomes a law. By the time the president will present the budget of 2025, they will not interrogate the budget of 2024 to know where it is standing. Yes, what items have not been met, or what has not been implemented, what is causing the lag. They will not even put it that. They will just do what? They will just roll over to that one. This is the kind of system we operate here, and it's unfortunate. So the president with his cabinet member, the largest so far, and then the cost of running it, and at a time like this, when you've removed subsidy, and at the same time you floated the naira at par with the dollar, and the naira took a nosedive, in fact a fall. The naira depreciated and the dollar increased. The implication was that marketers who ordinarily supposed to procure or who supposed to import the crude, the products, you understand, oil or fuel, could not do so because liquidity was no longer anywhere in the foreign exchange market. You understand? So I think we are all waiting, and this is what we believe in the next 4 years.
All right, we're going to go on a very short break. When we come back, issues of the moment will continue. Don't get away. Remember, as we come back, we'll be looking at Norge kicking against alleged imposition of Governor Oti's stooges as union executive in Abia State, and the 14-day ultimatum served to the governor of Abia State by NLC. These we'll be looking at as we come back. Stay where you are and don't go away. I am glad you're still there watching your favorite station and your favorite program, Issues of the Moment. We are moving on, and then remember, I told you that Norge kicks against alleged imposition of Governor Oti's stooges as Union Exco in Abia State. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC gives Governor Lex Oti a 14-day ultimatum to restore elected officials of the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NOGA, in the state. The union also tasked Oti to direct its officers who had illegally taken over the NOGA's secretariat in Umuahia to vacate without delay and make a public statement recognizing the elected union officials as the authentic NOGA officials in the state. Comrade, you know we've talked about the torture of government in this place several
Yes, the need for them to be independent.
To be independent. And
autonomous.
now look at what is happening. The national union of this branch had conducted the elections, I think, around 22nd, and then swore in even the officials.
Yeah.
And then the story is alleged that Governor Oti was not happy with these officials and then had to, get his own officers to take over from them.
Yes.
And then the National Executive, including Labour Congress, had also given him 14 days to make sure that these elected officers are restored. This election was not conducted locally here, but the National came down and did the election and shouldn't have been faulted in any way. And from all indications, constitutionally, this NOGA, they are supposed to stand aloof of the government.
Yes, I want to say this. You see, every time we talk here, we talk about the need for the territorial government to be autonomous and be independent of the states or even the federal government. And then I think for the sake of emphasis, I will say it here. At the state level, you have two services: state civil service and the local government service. Local government service and the state civil service, and they are not the same. And then for the purpose of union, to protect their interests, or the fact that we have freedom of assembly and rights of workers enshrined in our laws and frameworks and other international law and instruments to which we are signatory. NOGA was established in 1978. And I'm aware that it is simply a union for local government employees or local government workers, one that caters to their interests, that looks into their welfare, their condition of service, and what have you. I do not think it should be in the interest of the state government to want to interfere, you understand, with their matters. Even if previous governments, you understand, even if previous governments had done that, unless Oti should be a different person, and I will explain why. There is that assumption that Oti is not of the establishment. That's number one. Then number two, that Oti is pro-people. Then number three, that Oti is pro-poor. Then number four, chiefly the most important, Oti is coming from the Labour Party, which upholds the integrity of labor, the dignity of labor, the rights of the working man. You understand? That's the party Alex Oti is coming from. Yes, I understand that there may have been politics. We can't wish it away. We can't rule that out. But is it in the interest of the governor to continue going in the same direction? And I will say no. Let me explain to you. There was a letter dated 26th of July or June this year, where this same NOGA, I think Mwigwe led NOGA that had been dissolved. And I even heard that Mwigwe was actually moved to the state civil service. Yes, I heard that too. From the local government service to the, and I don't know why. Now you see, they wrote a letter to the government of Alex Oti, thanking him for paying salaries as he promised to, and then making clear, paying allegiance to him, that they will be ready to contribute. And that is what the cadre is known for. The civil service cadre is known for doing what? Working with the executive, no matter who is elected. Yes. There are appointments, for example, now Tinubu has made. If the Supreme Court had yesterday ruled that Tinubu will no longer be the president and that Atiku or Obi should emerge, Peter Obi and Atiku will have no choice than to work with those ones. You understand what I'm saying now? You don't even need to change them. There are those so, and this election we are talking about preceded Governor Alex Oti. It came before him. You understand? So if at all the governor who is coming from the Labour Party is now having these kind of industrial relations, it may bode ill for his administration and for his administration. And I understand, like I did say here, that there is politics in Norge where the state governors in this state had interfered in times past. But is it in the interest of this current governor to go the same way? And I will say no. And then let me shock you, the Nigerian Labour Congress during the last presidential election was clear in the candidates they supported, and that was Peter Obi of the Labour Party, the same party Governor Alex Oti belongs to. So if there is and then fortunately for that party, it is only in Niger State that party has a governor. Yeah. So if there is a place where industrial harmony, industrial relations need to be robust, need to be enviable, it has to be here. You understand? And I think even if we are to even politicize everything, Rome was not built in a day. You are just coming in. There are structures you inherit, you will keep working with. Over time, those structures will pave way for pro-people or pro-poor structure to emerge. This is a democracy, for crying out loud. There are excesses you don't have to exhibit. There are also limits you don't go beyond. So I think I am expecting our governor. I love him, I support him, but then I will not say everything he does is good. They talk about Port Road here. I talked about the symbolism of that road. How that road alone connects Aba, that's Alibu, to South. And I did say here that there were industries, including Coca-Cola Sapeng, that had left because of what collapse of that infrastructure, as occasioned by negligence on the part of previous governors or succeeding governments. But it is in my interest also to say the truth, to speak the truth to power. So I do not want Governor Alex Oti to be meddlesome or to meddle in some affairs. You understand? He shouldn't even give his consent to. Yes, I understand that some structures have been working with the PDP, but by law, they are not required to be card-carrying members of the party. You understand? Unless it is established that a Norge member is politically affiliated to the extent that maybe he has political interest, that person should not be there. But I have to say this, you see, the governor should remember his constituency. His constituency are the poor people of this state, those who went out to jubilate, those who went out those who took to the street to celebrate his announcement as the governor of the state by INEC. These are the people he should be thinking of how to provide services, the dividends of democracy for. You understand? And not much about Norge. Yes, Norge is also important, but it shouldn't be his priority to even meddle in their affairs.
All right, talking about the poor as a result of where he's coming from, I think you had it. Okay, we discussed it here in this platform, where he said he's going to work with the bourgeois, the billionaires in the local government area, So we've had that. But moving forward, the NLC urged the governor to release all withheld Jacob dues accruing to Norge, which has not been paid to the union since he assumed office, and pay appropriate interest on the total sum. Now, you said here that the Norge had praised him for paying
salaries.
So
okay, what we're talking about is not salaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this is what they're saying. What do you think is the governor's interest? Because this war has been on.
Yes.
To an extent, attracting the NLC chairman to come down and
the letter we're talking about was signed by Ajero.
Yeah.
NLC chairman. This letter we are talking about now was signed by Ajero, and when I read it, I didn't feel particularly happy. You understand? I didn't feel particularly happy because, like I said, if there is a state to respect labor laws, both the charter that the instrument in Nigeria is a signatory, the ILO convention. You understand? Upon which the foundation or founding of Norge is hinged. It is such a state that has to respect those laws.
Yes. You
understand? But yes, and it is Governor Alex Oti who has to make it happen. Now, the meaning is that there are outstanding payments that these persons may not have received, and the national body, that's the NLC, is aware of this. So I think this calls for action on the part of the governor to look at what can be done to expedite and release these payments to these workers. You understand? Because every working man deserves his pay. Coming to the issue of the bourgeois, the industrialists, yes, I love the industrialists. I respect them. When I talk about Bob the other day I was talking about him. Sorry, I'm saying this now. I talked about him. I said it hurt me so much when I remember his complex just here. It's just a stone's throw now. A stone's throw away from here. I said each time I remember that complex, how that was to an extent one of the first indigenous telecoms or telcos or telecommunication companies or telecommunication giants. It hurt me the way that project went. Then John Udabala, from the father who was importing knife, because those days when students were going to, in fact he was known as John Umma. He is from the line of industrialists and he sustained it. His investment is in this state, contributing to our GDP, contributing to our economic growth, creating jobs, both direct and indirect, to our indigenes, to our citizens, and to our people, and to our populace. Fine. But I think the Labour Party is a working man party. It doesn't have ideology of the capitalist. So if the governor is saying he will be making billionaires mayors, I do not think it could be in the line of that ideology, because we saw a party that was able to project teachers, to project motorists, to project common people, Okada operators, or tricyclists or cyclists, project them from the common man level or from the ordinary level to the political scene, to go and contribute to national discourse, to national debate, to national conversation and dialogue. So I think it should also be in the interest of the governor to pull people out of poverty, you understand, by the kind of revolutionary inventions he will bring. So far, I have commended him for the massive construction, road construction we've seen so far. He's embarked upon to build. But Abia was built with the sweat, the blood, you understand, and the tears of every Abia, including the agrarian communities. Here you don't have those industrialists. So I think the governor going forward may have to reconsider some of these things, especially now that NLC is coming in, because I wouldn't think that the first governor in that state that will have any face-off with the Labour Congress would be our own governor, Alex Oti, whom we are so.
That is from the Labour area.
Who also came from the Labour Party, who comes from the Labour Party. So it is in his interest to align some of this. I'm also expecting the national body of the Labour Party, the national, the national branch of the party itself, to actually go into some of these things and see the best alternative for it. Yes.
All right. Let it also be known that it was on May 22nd, 2023, that the national leadership of the Norge conducted this election and won Ikechi Nwigwe emerged as the president with 10 others as executives, and these people are the people that are set aside while Uti brought in these people. Let me just ask you, I want you to be specific. What do you think is the governor's interest in setting apart the duly elected officers of Norge?
If I tell you I know his interest, I may be lying, because there is that saying in Igbo land, the heart is like a bag, every man wears his own. Yes. But from what I have said so far, from the analysis I have made so far, you understand that I said there is this fear government usually have, that the civil service cadre must follow government policies, or must follow government, not policies anyway, they are there to execute these policies, yes. But that they must toe the line of government. You understand? That they must be partisan. Let me say it that way. That civil service workers, or civil servants themselves, as they are called, so you are supposed to be partisan. You understand? So if possible, pray the cause and cry the cause of governments. But it's not to be. And we know that civil servants are employed based on the oath of neutrality. They are bound to be neutral. You understand? Even if
Yes.
the government is there, their duty is to help the government achieve its goal and then specific functions for the citizens. But I do not know the interest of the governor to remove these executive members who preceded him. Because they have what they call SAC, State Administrative Council at Norgate. They have branches, and they have constituted all these establishments. They have branches, they have SAC. You understand? They have the state body for them, even at the national level too. Norgate, National Union of Local Government Employees. So I think the governor will also know that is where politics starts and that's also where politics ends.
All right, before we go for the day, remember a lot of people, like you rightly mentioned here, if there are ones who are called the commoners, even the commoners jumped up at Peter Obi coming out for the presidency of this country.
Yes.
And a lot of that has laid what we call the Obi wave. Yes. During the last election. Yeah. That led to a lot of people, both the House of Assembly, National Assembly, in fact, if not for God, so many of them would have remained there and so on. Now, and then, the commonest belief the ordinary man had is that Obi is going to pull a lot of people out from the bracket of poverty.
Yes.
To something, and that is what is expected of the governor of Abia State, which
yes.
is also coming from the Labour Party.
Yes.
Every other person is liking Alex Oti to be Peter Obi,
yes.
and so on. But the governor of Abia State coming to tell the local government, because from the local government, which is almost the last year of the government, and that is where the tier of government that is very close, that is the grassroots.
That's the closest.
That's the closest to the people.
Grassroots, yes.
And now, coming to say he's going to use people who are already made in various local government, do you think he still interprets that motive, that drive of the Peter Obi wave?
You know, we said we would want to hear from the governor's team or his handlers, whether the governor really said this. Or you understand? Whether the governor really said this, or it was a misrepresentation or misinterpretation of what he had said at the sports club. You know, it may have been a normal gathering, or maybe an outing, and the governor was talking. Yes, I do say that I do say it, and I'm still saying it. And I did say it the other day we had a problem. I said the governor should have just stopped at saying that competence will be the yardstick of appointments, you understand, than say people who do not like it should go and hit their head at the brick or anything. But that's by the way. You see,
and that saying, is not the era of indigenous or
non-indigenous. But now you see, the question of, I love the industrialists, they are doing well. If we have to accommodate them,
they should have a place.
They should have a place. If we are to accommodate them, because they are economic partners. If Abia State is to carry out economic summit, state economic summit, just like you had Nigeria do, last time ago, National Economic Summit, where the likes of Dangote represented, we are actually represented. It is still going to be these Ugabalas and the rest of them that will be there.
Yeah.
You understand? Because the government depends on them. The government depends on them, whether in terms of taxation or any other thing, to do what? To raise funds. You understand? To raise internal revenue. And in a state like Abia that doesn't even have much of these industries, you know, so it is in our interest to also protect them by creating an enabling environment for their businesses to thrive. You understand? Making them safe, making they even attracting other investors to our Gonzo state. But that should not create that bourgeoisie mentality or that capitalist tendency. You understand? Because there is that saying that let the kite perch, let the eagle perch. You understand? So the haves and the have-nots are all members of the Labour Party. The support the Labour Party enjoyed from Peter Obi to Alex Oti cut across different segments. It came from diverse segments of the society, not from a particular group. So And I do not think it is in the interest of Governor Alex Oti, with all due respect, to sideline those KK riders, because the people who voted, these bourgeoisie, like Honorable DP said the other day, they may not even vote on the day of election.
Yeah, but that's true.
You understand? They may even be in America. They may decide to take a leave during the election. It is these same people, these poor, the so-called, the poorest of the poor, that will come out to stand in the queue and exercise their votes, and you are declared the winner. And it was the same people who took to the street to celebrate that a new order has come. You understand? And it was the same people who celebrated when the governor invited Julius Berger. And it was the same people who took to their social media handles to share the news that Julius Berger has finally arrived and that we are going to witness live return to Port Harcourt Road. It was the same people who, at any point in time, had actually shown the governor the support. So these are the people the governor owns more. And how can he pay them? One, he has already begun, you understand, to an appreciable extent, building infrastructure. He must build infrastructure. He must also create a different environment for small scale farmers, small scale businesses to thrive. Alongside these bourgeois, none should actually sack the order or take the place of the order. So the governor also, I think it is in the interest of his handlers to also see, we are human beings. Even the governor is liable to make mistakes. Yeah. There is also a need for them to actually put the house in order, so that when the governor talks, we will know that yes, this speech is coming from the father of the state. He is the father of everybody, whether they are indigenous or non-indigenous or industrialists or bourgeoisies or the proletariats. He is the father of everyone, and he owes everyone that duty to provide them another environment that gives them that sense of belonging, to take idea to a greater height. Not a politics of exclusion or exclusionary politics that emphasizes on who owns wealth and means of production and who does not own. You understand? He's the father of everyone, and it should be his interest to take idea to that greater height. We are all watching. Thank you.
All right, wonderful viewers, this is where we're going to draw the curtain today. But before we go, let us take your final point on what we've discussed today.
Okay, my final point is clear. I think we've seen the judgments from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal or Presidential Election Petition Court to the Supreme Court, which happened to be the appellate and final court in this instance. My own is simple. I've talked about the precedents that have been created or established. Now, going forward, Abuja, 25% vote cast in Abuja is no longer mandatory for a president, even though Section 134 said the person must win 2/3. You understand? Must actually win 1/3 of the vote in 2/3 of the states, and then including the FCT. Now, the Supreme Court has actually interpreted, because it is the court that interprets. The National Assembly makes the law, the courts interpret, the executive will implement. In performance of their duty, the Supreme Court has said that does not stand. It is fine. It's become a precedent. Then they actually talked about the issue of double nomination. They have ruled. They said it is left for the parties. The only thing that can salvage this country now, if there is perceived miscarriage of justice, and I will say it here. You see, it was, I have quoted him before, Justice Ulfo Oputa. He said, "We are final not because we are supreme, but we are supreme because we are final. Because after us, there is no other court people can go." And I said, since 1963, the Supreme Court came into existence as court of final appeal in this country. No other exists above it. The ball has now shifted to the lawmakers to begin amendments of those ambiguous provisions in our constitution, our electoral act. For example, section 64 said the commission may we shall transmit the election electronically or may do it manually. But some interpretations or some people are beginning to say now that by virtue of this interpretation, it simply means that manual transmission of results is more important than the electronic transmission of results. And that is how people can misconstrue the Supreme Court judgment or any judgment. So, that said, the National Assembly should go back to our laws, revisit, remove those gray areas. If we are talking about electronic transmission, let it be there. You understand? Then again, they themselves also are the ones to also look at all this issue of double nomination and by way of amendment, which is part of their duty, because their duties are three: one, representation; two, lawmaking, which is where this thing falls in. We've been now, and then the last one is oversight. Then on the issue of industrial relations in United States, it has to do with the government and the NOG. I want to appeal to the governor. The NOG is independent body of workers, registered and founded in 1978. Every state has its own, and they have branches. They have this State Administrative Council, that's the SACs. Being meddlesome or trying to remove people who have been elected there to may not actually all go well. Just like we are hearing about the markets too. I think the governor should allow grassroots democracy, and for that reason, I don't want it to take any longer for elections to happen at the local government level, so that people will feel that sense of belonging. People, because the government, the governor had promised to have a robust local government administration, not one that will go cap in hand before the state. So it is in his interest to make sure that everybody is carried along. The industrialists, the workers, the proletariat, the business tycoons, the owners of business, even the unemployed. The state belongs to everybody, and everybody is meant to have a sense of belonging in it. Thank you.
All right, our viewers, that's the much we're going to take today. Remember, when the local government is robust financially and otherwise, it helps the commonest man, because if we are talking about the local government, we are talking about the real grassroots. That is why it was created. And when the government looked the other way, and also the whole thing happens. Remember here we talked about the local government unable to grade even roads and so on. This is very bad, and I know dear governor will do better. He understands better and has been a local man. He's from a local government, so he understands what the local government is all about. And that's the much we are going to take today. And my guest, Comrade Nnamdi Lekwaji, we're very pleased to have you here today.
You're welcome. It's always my pleasure to be here. Thank you. And thank you, viewers. Goodbye.
Remember, it has always been my word, Nigeria is our country and Abia is our state. We ain't going to run away from it. So we must do everything we can to make sure that we live well amongst ourselves. Having said that, this is your command, Chinedum Adiele. Until we come your way again next week, keep watching Living TV. Bye for now.